Good, and welcome to The Shift. It is another awesome Monday night here in Canada and in Florida. My name is Mark Jeffrey, and I'm here with my host, Linda Lehman, who is in Paradise. She's a Floridarian. Is it a Floridarian, Linda?
Floridian.
Floridian, and I'm a Canadian. So last week we talked a lot about our personal relationships, but tonight we're talking about professional relationships. And because most of us, and most of our readers and most of our listeners and people that follow us are of the business world, often Linda and I have these conversations about different things that people do that really ruin their reputation or and make other people feel less of them because of things that they do. And we've talked about this on past episodes as well, about our accessibility now. Now we can be seen and heard everywhere if we truly want to be, and sometimes that's not a good move. Sometimes you have to take the time to learn your craft, to become at least a master of your own thoughts and your own thought process and how you if and how you believe in whatever it is that you do believe in. The reason for that is that when you're out there as a professional or someone who is giving other people information, you have to remember all of the people that can hear you. That's everyone. So especially if you're on a Facebook page, you've got friends of friends, and people haven't really entirely scoped in on the privacy settings there. And, God would forgive you because Facebook changes that every day, and it's hard to keep up with those things. But we have to remember that what we say and do now isn't as erasable as it might have been. I mean, it's funny, Linda, I think about this because not too very long ago, we were saying, be careful what you put in an email because they can print it off. That was bad enough. But now it is a whole big world of your face, who your family is, how you conduct yourself in your off hours. I mean, all of that now becomes part of your professional persona on the internet if that's how you allow it to be. And people who might have gone to listen to your audio tape, say, and they say, this is a pretty interesting person. They've got a great point of view. I like listening to them. The sound of their voice is soothing. And then they friend you up on Facebook and find out that you're partying every weekend and your language maybe isn't as clean as it is on your audio tapes. So they do a double take. They try to figure out if they actually got the right person. And they lose their credibility in you. And the other part that I think we want to discuss here today too is how you nurture relationships that you are just starting to build. And maybe if you're not that confident in yourself, well, go out and find yourself someone who is confident. Maybe team up with them and work with them in building your voice. There's nothing wrong with that. All of these talk shows, I was looking at The Talk the other day. I love the personalities on that show. Sometimes they have some strange topics, but I love the personalities of that show and how they intermingle with each other and have different ideas. And that's why I love Linda, because she's the almost exact opposite of me, but thinks along the same linear lines so that we're always connected. And we believe the same things. We believe in being good to people. We believe that you don't have to lie and cheat and steal to become successful. I've never done that in my life. What I've done in my life is simply put myself in the way of someone who can help me understand more about myself so that I had a better voice for the world, and then looked for an opportunity to give that. And so I do it on a bigger scope most days, but individual meeting up with people now is the way that people are doing business, going out and friending somebody up, and not just friending them up on Facebook because you want to sell them your business, but to have a genuine interest in them and what they're doing and a genuine interest in helping them meet their goals. Linda, what say you?
Wow, Mark. That was a beautiful summary of just about everything. But no, I totally agree with everything that you've said. Relationships are so important, and you stressed a wonderful word. It's genuine, and it hits on so many levels. First you were talking about maybe somebody has put on a professional mask, and they've done some talks or they've done some recordings, and other people start picking those up. But if it's truly just your mask and it's not genuinely who you are, when they find who you really are, it's going to be truly disappointing, because you have to be true to yourself and true to your values. And if your value is I want to party hardy till I'm 50, and I don't care about people, then something to help other people grow, like a personal growth program, is probably not something that you want to produce. Maybe you want to do something more on the party scene. It is truly disappointing to follow someone and think that they're genuine, and then to find out later the hard way that they aren't the person that you thought them to be. And Mark, really, we're all here on this beautiful planet Earth to connect with and to help each other. It's a desire that we all feel within ourselves. We may not be able to pinpoint it. We may not know where that urging is to connect, but really, none of us can be successful in whatever endeavor that we choose to do, whatever goal we choose to achieve, without the assistance of other people. And that assistance isn't necessarily hand-to-hand assistance, but we cannot grow without each other. And quite frankly, in my opinion, we cannot grow ourselves and achieve our own successes without helping other people grow, because again, that's what I believe that we're here to do. What do you think about that, Mark?
Well, I definitely agree with you, Linda. And, I guess from one perspective, it would be very, very difficult especially when you're working on the internet and there's just so many things going on. And because we work within that field, as we'll talk a little bit about it today, is that sometimes, you're right, people put on an illusion for a little while. It's always interesting to me. When we're going out there, and it's a lot of the stories, I guess, that get told, and it's almost like they came from the same school of internet marketing. Tell a sad story and then make it look good, and then tell them you had prosperity after that. And I thought, well, I don't have that story, so I couldn't ever say anything like that because I've never been in those shoes. I've always made myself available to help people who might find themselves in those shoes at any point in their life, but it certainly wasn't a way that I wanted to really market myself. And the other part of that was from inside, from an internal mechanism for me, is I never and have never dwelled on any of the things in my life that were not particularly good for me. It's like I've had them, I've dealt with them, I move on. And so for me, if every day I had to read about a person's, having been bankrupt, having been homeless, having been that, it's almost where my mind in itself wants to go, I just click off of that. I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear, I appreciate that people come from those beginnings, appreciate that they've made money for themselves, but I don't also want to say to anyone, well, you work in the corporate world and you're bringing in your 7 figures, but how could you possibly be happy? You have no freedom. And we seem to attack the people that perhaps we shouldn't be doing because of our own point of view. And that's one of the things I think I appreciate the most about you, Linda, is that that's not something that we do. It's just what I like doing, I like doing. And if you were in the corporate world and that's what you did and you were happy and fulfilled and loved your career, who would I to be to say, well, you should be living on, and I know you live on a beach, but who am I to come and say, well, you should be living on a beach, you should have this and you should have that? Because obviously you can't be free if you're not an entrepreneur and struggling to try and make money on the internet. So I think people get kind of wound up, and I know the only reason I bring this up is because it's really been disheartening for me in the last, I would say, 3 or 4 months with really the lies that are being said. And the reason I say that is because I know the people that are putting out the quote-unquote sad story, and realistically speaking, they never felt that pain. I mean, nothing like that even happened. And I don't think it's fair, because I think that in itself is preying on people and their emotions. And somebody who's down on their luck, I certainly wouldn't want to say, well, give me another $23,000 and change your luck. So I think that genuine, that honest perception, some people aren't going to like me because I say what I say, and from my heart and my mind, and I have, very little governor on me in some cases, but it's true. And you can always depend on that fact. I don't go out there and bash anybody's anything and say, well, this is better than that, and you're not good enough because you're not doing this. And that seems to be something that's going on a lot. It's in the people. I have, and I have such a diverse friends that even in the outside world, it's like my daughter chose a specific profession, but she didn't go into it. She went to school. She got involved in something else, and then now has just been promoted, and it's a very prestigious position within that place, her place of work. And if I were to say to her, gee, you should really become an entrepreneur because you're not free, she's got all the freedom in the world, and she loves it. Why would I ever say anything like that would have her doubt herself, doubt what she's doing and what she's pursuing? And yet every day these professional or so-called professional relationships are happening in the internet world, in the entrepreneurial world. And, it's something that, I don't know, Linda, are we doing more damage to people out there just because we want that money?
Short answer, yes. I believe that there's a lot of damage being done out there. It's a very dangerous game to play, in my opinion, to tell that sad story over and over and over again. Because when you're telling that story, you cannot help but be internalizing it yourself. So you may be one of those internet entrepreneurs who have, against many odds, somehow, by hook or crook, as my mom used to say, made it big. But as you continue to tell that story, it can't help but begin to attract that story back to you. You and I both have been students and continue to be students of one of the wonderful laws of the universal law of attraction. And like attracts like. And what you're saying, and as you're saying it and you're thinking it, you're actually putting that vibration out there and saying, I want more of the same, even though you're not verbalizing, hey, I want more of the same sad story. Because you're telling that story, you are attracting that story back to you. So eventually, it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but the wheels are turning, and that same story is going to come back to you. And I know you and I have both kind of seen that. Somebody has a sad story to tell, and they overcome adversity. They really get motivated and positive and start moving toward their goals, and then they realize, wow, this works, and I'm working my goal and I'm living my goal. You know, maybe people would like to hear my sad part of my story as to how I got here, so they start telling that story. And Mark, what happens? We've seen it happen with some of the people we know. Boom, they're back on the bottom again. It's just completely, the floodgates opened, it fell out from under them, and they don't understand why they got that way or how they got that way, because they'll be back there scratching their heads. Well, I study my personal growth every day, and I meditate, and I do yoga, and I do all of this. What happened? What went wrong? Well, what went wrong is they continued over and over and over again to tell that same sad story, even if it was a made-up story, Mark. It doesn't matter to the law of attraction, right? Whatever you're saying out there, it takes it as real, right?
You know, and Linda, I had the same experience. It was funny that we're actually talking about this today, because many of you may not know I was invited to speak at this symposium with the National Cancer Institute. So I thought about, what am I going to say? How am I going to put this together, and how am I going to make the impact? And I thought, well, you better start thinking about it now so that you're prepared. Because for me, and it's actually in our group of people, I have some people say, I hate that you never use a script. It just scares me to death. And I said, I can't do that, because I just get where I need to be inside of me, and somehow my mouth catches up with me. It is who I am. If I wrote it down, I'd be stumbling all the way through it. But so I started thinking back, and I was laying on my bed, I had some music playing, and I just, started thinking back to the day and the emotions and the different feelings that I had, so I can make sure I was emoting them, because I've told the story of triumph more than going back to that day, and I think and a lot of people ask me to do it, but I'll say no. I want to talk about my life now and how nothing can stop you. I mean, I have an unlimited life now. I have an amazing life. But I was saying it, and the next thing you know, the tears were rolling down my cheeks, and my voice was becoming very broken, and my heart started beating faster. And as you know, this morning I got up in not a good headspace. I mean, I have been spending the morning, I wasn't sleeping good. I actually took a sleeping pill, which I really don't do that often unless I'm flying. And even this morning I'm going, okay, man, whoa, what is that? I need to just get out from under that. Luckily for me, I think this morning, God smiled on me, because He made me have a nice, beautiful, sunshiny day. So I was smiling. But I thought about it, and I thought, boy, if this was a gloomy day, and I was in this headspace, I would have to fly down to Linda's place and hang in her sun so I could actually even do this show today. It can really take you down. And people don't understand that, Linda. That's such an important part of how we are successful, how we stay right where we are and can't move forward, or if we land flat on our butts.
Exactly, Mark. As long as we're reliving something unpleasant, we're going to continue over and over again to relive it. I mean, you just experienced it. I have goosebumps because of your story, because you were truly re-experiencing the whole thing all over again. And, it was real. It was real, because we're creating our reality with our thoughts and our feelings anyway. So people need to be very, very, very careful. And I, like you, if I stumble or something that somebody would consider bad, and maybe an initial flash of my own perception, it's like, oh, this is really bad, I don't dwell on it. I look for whatever is good in it, and that's what I grab onto, and get myself in a different thinking process and move away from it, move forward, move out of it, take the dip and the turn and go on, and don't think about it again, because you're right. If I started thinking about things that have happened to me in my past, I might as well just curl up in a ball in the corner somewhere. But that's not what I want to do, because I want to live life. I want to have fun. I want to be in this really good feeling space, this happy space, all the time, or as much of the time as I possibly can. And it thrills me. It tickles me sometimes, because, Mark, I have, as you know, I have a foot in both worlds right now. I have a foot in the corporate world. I have a foot in the entrepreneurial world. And then, of course, Randy is totally entrepreneurial world. But I still have that foot in the corporate world, because I enjoy what I'm doing. I still work out of my home office, which is what I've always wanted to do, and I've been doing this for now, close to 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I love it. I guide a team of people who are great professionals, and I'm able to coach them and lift them up and help them be even more successful. And then at the same time, I also have my own coaching business. So it works well for me. And I get tickled sometimes because I'll be on this large conference call with a lot of folks from VPs of divisions to operations management teams, and I'm always on there, and I'm high energy and bubbly, and people are always teasing me. Oh, Linda, how can you be so happy all the time? How can you be so up all the time? And anytime they ask me, Linda, how are you? I'm fabulous. But that's just the way I am, and I know that my high energy spreads, because I can hear voices coming on the phone even, and it's like, hi, it's Sally. Hi, it's Bob. And by the time we get rolling on the call, because I kind of interact with them and ask them questions, or do say something totally goofball just to make sure everybody's awake, by the time we're rolling in the meat of what we wanted to talk about, everybody's energy has increased. I can actually feel it over the telephone. And that's also the same energy that I like to push out, and what I put out and what we put out. I know you're the same way, Mark. What we put out there on the internet with my my layman's terms newsletters and your Mark's views and everything else, we're putting that high energy out there, and I know that it's catching. I know that it's catching on. Don't you agree?
We see that every Monday. We have more and more people joining and listening in onto the show, but I also get more responses and different people sending me messages going, oh, well, I'd like to hear, this is my story. I'd like to, what would you do if you were in my shoes? And I think that is really encouraging that we can offer something like that. But you and I said from day one that if it was only one person and every Monday they showed up and every Monday they took something home that they could use to better themselves, to feel better about themselves, that was good enough for us. And so, yeah, you want to have these lofty goals of, I'm going to be a superstar and I'm going to be on every stage of the world. But the first goal should be, who can I help and how am I going to do that? And am I going to stick to it? Because that's another thing that I've seen as well as you, Linda, is people that come out of the gate and they get a bunch of people involved in something, and they're, this is going to be awesome, jump in now. No, we don't have a quite clear, concise place of where we'll be at the end, but jump in now because you might be missing out if we go big. And then a whole bunch of people do something, and it's just like blah, blah, blah. It doesn't happen. So I think when you're building professional relationships particularly, and you really want to build your company, will you start one person at a time? You start connecting one person at a time, and certainly there's a lot of ways that we can get our word out. I mean, Linda and I, we use pay-per-click advertising to put our show out. We use Facebook, our own. We talk about it all the time. When I'm out with other groups of people, I say, yeah, drop in on the shift Monday nights. Cool. We just chat about anything. Anything that we, women's issues, men's issues. We're going to have some dynamic guests come on this show. We had a plan, but we started with one. And if you could have read messages back to each other about how tickled pink we were that one person thought enough of us to come and listen to what we had to say. That was joyous. It wasn't, oh, there was only one person. See, it's a headspace. It's a mindset. That's what we're here to talk about, is you can have the most incredible life with $2 in your pocket because it's a sunshiny day and you can get out there and you can smell the flowers and the grass, can feel it in your hands, or, you know, you can go out and walk a little old lady across a room because she's struggling. And you see opportunities every day to make your life joyous. And these are professional relationships because you never know one day when that person is going to be on the other end of your marketing and say, I remember that person. That person was the person who helped me when I fell and actually got hit by the car herself. You know, it's going to come back in a way that will knock your socks off. But as Linda said, and this is something that you really have to remember, it can come back to bite you if you're not genuine and you're not out talking your truth, and whatever that may be. And we've heard it in training. Both Linda and I have been on in several different companies, and, you know, we heard it, fake it till you make it. Well, you don't fake it to the max to make it, but you might have to say things like when somebody says, you know, how much money are you making? Well, my answer is it's really none of your business. I don't even know who you are, right? You could be an IRS guy. No, but, you know, that it isn't any of their business. And the reality is that my success, Linda's success, our success, isn't tied to your success in any way, shape, or form. I don't know what you do when you walk away. I have no idea what your convictions are, what your strengths are. I know when I bring people into my business, they feel like, you know, do you really want me to be in your business? And I'm going, absolutely I do, but I will never put somebody in business who can't handle it. You know, so if I'm dashing your dreams, I apologize for that, but I will tell you the truth. If I don't feel that you're at the place where you need to be successful at this, and you've told me I've got a mortgage, you know, my wife depends on me, or, you know, maybe she's pregnant, or I have 2 kids, or whatever it is, I'm not going to take your money. I'm not going to do it because that would be in disservice of who I am as a human being. What do you say, Linda?
Oh, I agree 100%, Mark. You know, success in any endeavor that any of us have lies within ourselves. And, you know, maybe that's one thing. If we could help that one person who is, you know, struggling or wanting success but can't seem to find it, it begins within. It's just like you made the comment, you know, the person who is happy even though they only have $2 in their pocket. It all starts inside of you. If you want success, you have to feel successful, and that might mean using your imagination a lot, and visualizing and getting into the feeling of it, feeling what it feels like inside to be successful, feeling what it feels like to be happy, to be in a good relationship. You have to feel it first before you can be it, and feeling doesn't cost you any money whatsoever. And that's where it all begins. So I guess if there's one takeaway for anybody who's listening, and everybody who's listening actually, that's the takeaway. Feel it first. Be it inside. You know, we don't use our imaginations enough, and that's, quite frankly, one of the secret keys to building a successful life, whatever it is to use your imagination for you, not against you, because that's where most people tend to go, is conjuring up all these bad things that could happen, but instead ask the question, what if it works? And then focus on that and focus on that feeling.
Yeah, what if it works? What if it is better? What if that is your reality? And you're right, that it is a what if. And I certainly can appreciate someone who is in a situation now that looks hopeless. One, if you're in a situation where you feel it looks hopeless, I always say people, get somebody that can help you and do it like now. Um, go to the public health unit, whatever you have in whatever country you are, and tell them that this is serious. I need somebody to speak to right now, because that feeling of hopelessness is not good, and it can take you down. If you're someone who is just, oh, my job, like I used to be making some money and now it's not so much, or I got a new boss and I'm not liking it, that's when that imagination comes in. Imagining that, oh, if I had this job that I loved, if I had the opportunity to do this, and you know what? I always say to people, and I said this to my daughter on many times, she's gone through many transitions within the business because she's in the oil and gas industry, and they get bought out and they get merged, and it's ever changing. And my kid is a kid that's very, list oriented. You do this, this, and this, and she crosses off her list. So when it comes to fluid, she maybe doesn't pivot on her feet as much as she would like to be able to. But she said when she has days like that, she does come home to Mama, and we'll sit there and I'll say, well, let's do a strategic plan for tomorrow. Smart people, every time you get a chance and they're walking by your desk and you're on the phone, just raise your eyes a little bit and get a half smile on your face, and then go right back to what you were talking with your business partner. When you see them there, you get water. Stick in there, you both hit the water cooler at the same time. If it's the guy in the back, he's the warehouse guy, and you feel like, you should have the water first, take a step back and allow them to have the water first. There's so many opportunities in our lives. We're rushing across the street. Well, take a look around you and see, is there someone that might need help, and maybe take a little more time to get across that street? Should we aid them? Is there a child that is sitting in a park and has no one to play with because the other kids won't play? Well, maybe you can get another kid and walk up and say, hey, can we come together with something where that kid can play too? Can we help this person? Then that child learns at a very young age that, hey, look what happened. I reached out to that little person over there, and they came in and threw a ball around, and they laughed with a giggle I've never heard before. We have opportunities in our lives to raise us up every single day, but if we got those blinders on, oh, woe is me, I'm Eeyore, nothing ever goes good in my life, I visualize all the time, but really that's a bunch of hokey pokey because it never works. Well, guess what? It's a bunch of hokey pokey, and it's never going to work. Right, Linda?
Oh, right. Because you said it was hokey pokey, so you're just like a magician. Wow, you're right. I would have to say, too, in lifting each other up, I started talking about this urging, this desire that we all have within us, and it's really, I think Wallace Wattles puts it, he calls it this desire for increase. We're always being urged to grow and expand ourselves, and that's where sometimes that's where it comes from. When we're in a job and maybe we want a promotion, or we're an entrepreneur and we want to make this huge difference. It's this increase that we have to always expand and grow. You can see it in nature all around you, that same desire for increase. And so I think that one of the biggest and best things that we can do for each other is to recognize that desire for increase. And we can do that by lifting each other up. And one of the easiest ways that we can do that is anytime we're communicating with someone, whether it's a stranger or somebody we know, whether it's in face, over the phone, even through email, as you're communicating with that person, is to find something good about them or something good that they're doing. Even if it's the cashier at the grocery store and she has a cute little pair of earrings on, that's something good. Or maybe she has a nice smile. But notice it, recognize it, and let them know. And be genuine. pay them a genuine compliment. Because don't you feel really good, Mark, when somebody notices something really wonderful about you and lets you know about it?
Oh, absolutely I do. And as you were saying that about the earrings, also, when I give somebody a compliment, it makes me feel good too.
Exactly.
You know,
it does it for both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and the cool thing about that is, Mark, is as you make it a point and then make it a habit to look for the good, something good about everybody that you encounter, what you're going to find is the more you look for, the more you find. So once you make this habit, it's easy, and you're going to find tons of wonderful things about these people that you're communicating with, and that, Mark, is how you begin to build long-lasting relationships.
Absolutely right, and that's how the first relationship that you're building is inside of you too. Because as you build the inside of you, you're going to find that your relationships with everyone, your family, your friends, your business partners, everybody, it's all going to be increased and better, more rich and full. You're going to find that happens. And the other thing that's going to happen is you're going to be less likely to step into places where you shouldn't, because there's bad people out there with a good game. And you're going to be able to recognize it a lot quicker, so that you're going to be able to protect yourself, because you're living in a genuine world. You're living somewhere where it's real. There's realities here. And you're going to know when it's not real. So that's going to help you in your decision-making process. So we're just, almost at the top of the hour here. Once again, there's just so many things that we want to talk about and share. But I'll leave you. Linda, you got something you want to take them out with today?
Well, sure. Actually, you had mentioned a while back that you had the great honor to, at one point in time, work with the late and the great Stephen Covey. So I'll leave us all with a quote from him. It's one of his principles, and he said to seek first to understand, then to be understood. So as we approach relationships with people, seeking first to understand them before we jump in to try to get them to understand us, we're going to have much stronger and much greater relationships. So I'll leave us with that, Mark. So I say good night to you and our wonderful listeners.
Well, good night, Linda, and that was a perfect one. Love that quote. So thank you for sharing with us. We'll see everyone next Monday night. We're going to be talking a little bit more about relationships, but we've got some other stuff coming up too that I think you're going to find really, really interesting. So again, we thank you all for spending this evening with us, and we hope you took something away from it that will help you. And good night, Linda.
Good night, Mark.